Hi Smriti, how's
Hello.
life post Durandar?
It is it is almost the same, except of course, yeah, there's a lot of joy around, I think.
Oh, right. So behind every successful man there is a woman, and behind the viral Chere Baloch look of Akshay Khanna in super duper hit Dhurandhar stands Smriti, noted costume designer and stylist Smriti Chauhan. So has the
That is true.
success has this mind-boggling success of Dhurandhar rubbed on you as well?
I wouldn't say it has rubbed on me. I wouldn't deny the fact that I have enjoyed its success thoroughly, and I'm actually really basking in it. I'm very grateful for it also. Um, I mean, I that's all I can say. All I keep telling myself is that this is a small step towards what my end goal is, and I'm glad that I could make it this way, and I'm very grateful to everybody who actually, particularly Adithar, who laid his trust in me. So I think it's a feeling of a lot of gratitude more than anything else. I'm very grateful.
But so what exactly is the end goal?
I know. Yeah, I mean, it keeps changing, by the way.
Yeah,
until
goal.
until yeah, it is like the horizon. You want to get to every time you think you're getting closer, but it keeps going farther away from you. It is literally that, and I think also for me, the end goal is to just work on many, 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 many meaningful stories that I can be a part of, that can bring about a considerable change, and spark the right conversations, and yeah, and whatever little part or whatever little role I can play in that, I would want to do that until I walk this earth. That's probably what my goal is. So it's probably something that will parallelly keep growing. It's not something like a milestone that I'm going to reach and I'm going to be like, wow, I have made it to the top of the mountain. I don't think so. I think the peak is constantly keep going to rise, and I'm going to keep chasing it.
But talking of Dhurandhar, what has been the most demanding part of the designing for this one?
With most of the films, particularly in our country,
Mm.
I think so. I haven't worked so much outside, but I worked with the people outside.
Right.
I feel the biggest challenges come in the execution part of, and I'm going to talk very logistically.
Uh,
Yeah, I
right.
see. I see you already smiling. I guess you've already heard a lot on these front,
No, no, no,
but
no, no, no. Please enlighten me. Yeah,
so
yeah.
so I think the most challenging part of any filmmaking process is the making of it, right from the part when you get inside, imagining what the language of the film is going to be visually, and how you are going to be partaking in it, and to be able to execute it all the way to the best of your ability. There are multiple variables that that help you achieve what you set out to achieve. And there are multiple hindrances that come along the way. A lot are logistical and time constraints and long working hours and all of those that are put together. But other than that, as an artist, when you see what your end product is, there is always scope for improvement.
Oh,
So when you sit across the frame and you see the outfit, and when you saw it first during the trials and they looked us, you were like, bang it, I've killed it, I think we
right.
achieved it.
Uh,
And everybody is happy, everybody is galore about it. And then when you actually sit there behind the frame, she's like, Arey yaar, I wish I could bring about this particular change. Maybe, the buttons could have been this, or maybe I think the flare could have been a little more, things like that. And hence, I think for me, particularly, this scope of improvement keeps also helps me polish what I do, is
mm,
also the biggest challenge I face, because I am the biggest critic of my work, I think. and
okay.
and uh, and I keep thinking, oh my god, I could have done this better. So I think for
Mm.
me, that is one of the biggest challenges in any films that I do. And on Durandar, it was even bigger for me because I was working with a very big star cast for the very first time in my life.
No,
Of
you
all the
worked
films
with
that I have.
Priyanka before.
Yes, I have. I have worked with Priyanka before, but that film had Rajkumar and Priyanka and
Uh,
multiple ensemble cast. But then this had a huge, like they had an array of star cast that I was working with. So, I
Mm.
So can you hear me? You can still hear me,
Yes,
right?
yes, loud and clear.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so for me, it was I wouldn't deny the fact that there was a tingling sensation in my stomach about how it's going to all be and
Mm.
how am I going to execute, because we were also trying to create a different create like a world that the audiences
Mm.
have not seen, right?
Sure.
And to ensure that when you're telling the story, the fact that your costumes have to be fitting the narrative and it not standing out, and yet telling the story in the most believable way.
Mm.
All of these things were making me a little it were little worrisome right in the very beginning, until I met everybody, until I met
Mm.
the actors, until of course Aditya, so right
Mm.
from the very beginning he was like, हो जाएगा सब कुछ, no tension, कोई
Mm.
stress नहीं है. And but I did have my apprehensions until I met all the people, and I think it was a cakewalk after I actually had my first few meetings with everybody, and then everything fell in place. Yeah, I mean, challenges kept, to answer your question correctly, I felt the challenges came, but they were very well handled during the process of it. And I think it all came from the team that we were working with, you know. So Aditya sir has been a very strong push. Ranveer himself has been a
Mm.
very, very strong, he's very collaborative, and he's been very, I've mentioned this before, and I would love to mention it again, that he's very, he's very supportive, and he always works towards boosting his people's morale. If you do something good, he'll always walk up to tell you that you've done a great job, and things like that. In the most toughest of conditions when we work, are your stilt to keep
Mm.
going and to keep doing better. So yeah.
But you got the Pakistani look bang on, whether it's male characters or the heroine or even other side characters. So, was there any reference point for you?
Yes, yes. As you must have already known, that the film has is inspired from some true events, and the characters are built on real characters.
Right.
So
Mm.
we did have we research wise, we did know what these real people were about.
Mm.
And because the film is based in Pakistan, and the information that we have is mostly available on the internet and YouTube and everything, and a
Mm.
lot of information was given to us by Aditya himself and his DA Ojas. They had researched heavily on the because they had written it together. So they had researched heavily
Mm.
on what the world is going to be. So there was a lot of information that came from them, and there was a lot of information that we got through our research, and that amalgamated with what the real people were, is
Mm.
where the base was built, right? And then our idea, I remember Aditya sir saying that we are going to create a world that we are going to show the people, and we also want to tell people so many things that they are not aware of, like things that actually happen in Pakistan, but people think something otherwise of it. For
Mm.
example, about how women dress in Pakistan, and yes, of course there's hijab, and there are places where you will see them dress conservatively, but then there are also women who
Mm.
who wear western outfits. And the fact that a lot of people until today also still think that पाकिस्तान में नहीं होता होगा ये, but ये सच नहीं है, you know,
Mm.
and things like that. And basically it was very research driven, but it was
Mm.
eventually we added a hint of style to it, which pushed pushed the line
Mm.
and pushed the border only that much that could be taken by the audiences. So where you would want to make it stylized and yet believable, and
Mm.
that's where all of these, like, okay, पठानी तो है, but उसमें हमने थोड़ी और डिटेल ऐड कर दी, हमने उसके folds और उनके cuts पे थोड़ा काम किया, and we pushed the bar a little. That's what we
Mm.
did. But the base was based on completely true research, based on what the characters would probably look like. And there were certain characters in the film for whom we had very little information, such as a Major
Mm.
Iqbal. If you
Mm.
ever try and find any
Mm.
information on him, there is barely anything that you will
Mm.
know of. and
Okay.
and that development of what a Major Iqbal had to be went through various cycles,
Mm.
because I had a certain set of ideas. I was like, oh my god, we have a clean canvas to paint, because let's like because
Mm.
we don't have anything, so we can tell audiences this is what your Major Iqbal could have been, right? So
Right.
otherwise, with today, with the moment anything comes out, everybody is so equipped with material and access to material, that everybody's like, oh, Rahman Dakat looked like this, oh, and
Mhm.
Uzair Baloch looked like this. But with Major Iqbal, you cannot cannot point out how he looked. So there was a lot of design process that came in. We decided about the fact that he's a major, he's an army, he has an army background, so there has to be some military influence in his outfit, and at the same time there is so much ruggedness. Aditya sir was like, I really want to make him wear those nice safari bush shirt looking person, like probably how Zulfikar Ali Bhutto would have been used to dress. He was a very stylish man. So a lot of inspiration taken and developed from. Also mixed very rationally with what the real image of the person was.
But
That's
out
how
of
it was.
all the actors, one actor which you love the most designing for, and one which may have given you many sleepless nights.
See, sleepless nights. I mean, I think I had a lot of fun designing for Ranveer, because there the look we really pushed the bar there. Because there was a character that we had to devise, and this character's outlook was very rock, huge, bulky, strong, somebody like, we had to be very sure that when he walks into the frame, he should look like the person people are going to stop, take a breath, step back, and look at. So I think the design part over there was the most enticing one for me, because also with Ranveer, he himself is so open to new ideas and experimenting, knowing his background and knowing what we have seen him wear in the past, even in his films, and the way he works on
Or
his
not
character.
weird, or not weird. I say.
Yes, so he never shies away from experimenting. So there I even got this leeway, right, where I was working with an actor who was very open to new experiments, who was open to new kind of style, and so it can gives you again, and I'll repeat myself saying that it gives you a bigger canvas to paint on. And then and when you have a very collaborative artist, he was the one who suggested we should put wires in our collar because there's going to be so much hair and everything. I don't want to be like have hair that I have to handle, and I have to ensure that my clothes are in the right place, everything. And it made total sense, right? So, we had a little wire which kept his, collar plackets and everything intact. At least it has movement, but only when it is needed. Otherwise, it's very distracting for a person to also watch on screen, and there's so much information. So yeah, that was definitely one of the most enticing part for me. And sleepless nights, if I were to say, I think I don't think an actor gave me any sleepless nights. Like actually, it was
Character,
more.
maybe
Uh,
some.
yeah, yeah. I'll tell you. There was this one character I was not being able to crack, which was Arshad Papu. And who you will see a little more of in Dhurandhar 2. I was not being able to crack at all. I was just like, what do I do about this person that I make him stand out and yet look different? And Aditya sir and I were talking about it, and Aditya sir mentioned that Smriti, how about we give him full black look? I was like, okay, we can try that. And then a lot of times, what happens is when there is a certain character you've imagined, you have a cast member who walks up to you. You have to work around what the actor's personality is, right? I'm talking about a personal style statement is, because sometimes my job is to ensure that I do not push the actor way out of his comfort zone, because nobody has that kind of a time to prep. You can do that with an actor if you had like some 6 months or to a year to work with it, right? But no, we did not have that liberty. And to push the actor away and completely out of his comfort zone, you had very little time. They're very adaptable for sure, but when you have little time, then you have to ensure that you're imbibing what his personal style is along with what you can develop on his character. Okay. So with him, when I met him, there was this swag he had about him. There's this very flowy way he would walk. So that immediately gave me an idea to use really flowy material, but to add structure to it by adding a lot of shoulder pads and stuff like that. So we went full black with him, but I did multiple silhouettes, not just a Pathani salwar. We did a Pathani lungi, we did shawls, we did a lot of different kind of this thing, and I accessorized him heavily. So his character actually, which you will see in Durand 2, turned out to be really beautiful. It actually, but that it took me the longest to crack. So I know this for a fact that for a very long time I kept thinking, what do I do and what? So that was one character I had a little trouble designing, but eventually, what the end results are, it's beautiful. You'll enjoy them.
Yeah. But you're talking of Ranveer Singh, and also the fact that he's very adaptable, sure enough. But how, and you are also talking of challenges, like you don't want the actor to be drawn out of his comfort zone. But what about the fact that many of these are superstars who are also fashionistas, whether it's Priyanka Chopra, whether it's Ranveer Singh, and now of course Akshay Khanna's style is being talked about. But these kind of superstars. So, as a costume designer, how do you divorce from that public image of theirs with, from the image that you're going to build through the character? Does that weigh, and how do you distance yourself from that?
If to just understand your question correctly, you were asking me how do I step away from what his public persona is? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
exactly,
Okay,
absolutely
okay.
correct.
See, again, there the hard work is not mine. To step
Hmm.
away from what their public persona is and what a lot of their job is done by the actors themselves, because
Hmm.
what they do is they work very heavily on their characters. So I'll since you asked me about challenges a few times, I'll tell you our journey with Akshay
Hmm.
Khanna on
Hmm.
how we developed his look. Okay, because with everything that we do, there is a lot of collaboration that has to go along. There's a director who has a like he has a vision, which is my job is to translate his vision. And then there's a very seasoned actor who walks in and he says, you know what, maybe we should try and do
Hmm.
this because it's a
Okay.
creative suggestion, right? And then of course it depends on whether it's working or not working, and the final call has to be of the captain of the ship. So the initial plan was, of course, oh, Rahman Dakat and Pakistan and Pathanis and everything it was. But, and I do remember Akshay sir being very, a tad bit apprehensive on that front, being like, okay, but, and his apprehension came from the fact that because the film was so, you know, there were so many men around everywhere in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
film. He was like, how are we going to differentiate that? Like around me, I have my brother and my entire gang standing, and
Hmm.
everybody is more or less going to be wearing similar pathanis and everything. How are we going to make it look different, you know and that was the challenge. And it was we were like, of course, I mean, when you look at a sea of men in Pakistan, if you ever Google them or if you ever find any Getty images for them, they're all dressed alike. There is a part where you will notice that ha sab pathani mein pehne hue cuts. If you look closely, then you'll see the difference in every person, right? So I understood where he was coming from. And that's when we eventually decided to infuse his looks with some kurta and denims, and also have a straight cut pant and kurta looks alongside Pathanis also. And we were like,
Hmm.
okay, because we can't forget the fact that he's also somebody who rose from the streets, right? That's where he rose from. He rules Larry today, and even in the film, we see a gradual growth of him. He joins a political party,
Yeah.
he owns one. So how do we show that journey? So we started using that and using his suggestion and everything and worked it around the story as well. So there are places we've given him straight pants, there are places we've given him denims when he's in his casual, and then the Pathanis have come into play, which apparently have done very well. So this part of coming on the same page could be sometimes challenging because people are experienced, they are seasoned, and they're opinionated, right? So
Hmm.
it can be challenging in the beginning when you have to put your point across and also have their point. So the best way that I have learned to go about is to always inculcate their
Hmm.
suggestions, and I have always realized, particularly in this one as well, that their suggestions actually work beautifully. And I'm quite sure after they see
Hmm.
the results, the actors feel the same about what we suggested. you know
Okay.
I'm sure I do remember writing a message to Akshay sir saying, congratulations and thank you and everything. I was sending him a long heartfelt message. He's a very quiet and an aloof person. And he replied to me after some 10 days, where I also wrote to him, by the way, the biggest hit look that we have happens to be that for Patani, and you've landed as the
Yeah.
most eligible bachelor, so I've been told. So,
Uh,
so yeah, and he's very kind. He's a kind person. And like I said, he's a very aloof person. He replied to the message with two hug smileys. And that I'll tell you clearly says that he's really happy.
Hmm.
So yes, I think if I feel a challenge in terms of trying to put my way forward or trying to have my creative, it's a creative juggle. There are so many times this happens with our directors as well. I'm known to be somebody who pushes too hard.
Yeah.
which I'm not very proud of. But
Yeah.
but sometimes, and I do that when I'm very sure that this is what is going to work really well. But you got to keep striking the balance. Today, aapki, if they have heard your idea, then tomorrow you should inculcate theirs.
Hmm.
That's how you just balance it out and move.
But as you yourself are saying, Akshay Khanna has really, I mean, like he's got phenomenal fame after this, and Aditya Dhar is also being talked about. The movie is being talked about. But do you think costume designers get their due? Do you think some of it escapes them? And
Oh, 100%. It is just,
Hmm.
um, it's been, I'm so glad you asked me this question, by the way. Thank you for asking this, Monica, because I will tell you one thing, that costumes playing a part in filmmaking have started being recognized only lately.
Hmm.
I mean, even in the 90s, there have been films, and I have grown up in the 90s watching films, and there was never a slate for a costume designer. There were slates for sound recordists and assistant sound recordists, but there were no slates for a costume designer. And I'm talking about films in the 90s with Saif Ali Khans and Kajols. During
Hmm.
those days when we actually saw them wear a Versace shirt, and who
Hmm.
got them the Versace shirt, nobody knows.
Hmm.
And and uh, and of course there were so many things that used to happen. There was a stole, there's a muffler, but nobody. So yes, I do agree that the credit to a costume design started taking shape when a film was a period film or it was a costume heavy
Hmm.
film. Then people
Yeah.
would talk about it. But when it was a day-to-day story, when it was just a character design part, which is a tougher thing to do, by the way,
Hmm.
that part. I'm so sorry, I keep getting calls. Sorry.
Hmm.
So the character design part, that is the most difficult part, and nobody even notices. The
Hmm.
fact, the job of a costume designer is to ensure that whatever we do takes a back seat and yet blends
Yeah.
with the narrative, right?
Hmm.
In a police, in a cop story, I don't have to make the cop's uniform shine brighter than the others, right?
Right.
So yeah, the fact that in a grave scene you see a police officer walking in expressing grief at a scene, or depth at a scene, the costume has nothing to do there, but you
Hmm.
just sit there quietly, and that is a very tough job to achieve.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so no, the costume designers are not do not haven't and
Hmm.
still haven't gotten their dues. I also feel that the job that we do, uh, people do not understand the technicalities of the job that we do. um, Again, it's a journey. We have reached somewhere, but I'm
Yeah.
not saying that this is it. Small things such as understanding that costume takes time, you know
Hmm.
but it is usually believed it's being peeled off the racks, but that's
Hmm.
not how it is done. Not always do we buy clothes. There are times when we are making them, we are customizing most of the garments. I believe in customizing a lot, because that gives that personal touch that will look different than what you see hanging in a on a hanger in a store. So there's a if I'm telling you a story about a little kid playing by the pond, and who has gone through who has an abusive father at home, their costumes will speak volumes, because
Hmm.
it will not be the most cleanest outfit. It will be conservative, it will have tears, it will have marks, it will be it will be very detailed, and those details are the ones which we really work upon,
Hmm.
and then at the same time, when you have a happy-go-lucky Punjabi auntie from let's say a Karol Bagh, Delhi, and you give her the juicy couture
Hmm.
velvet tracksuit, and then you still have that shawl draped around it with the mendi henna on the hair.
Hmm.
All of that, these are all part of costume design.
Hmm.
And I would like to mention that with costume design, very hand in hand goes hair and makeup, who
Hmm.
also I think are
Not
fighting
that.
battles like our department is.
Hmm.
And it's now that we have their department as well is getting, and there's an understanding that, oh, hair and makeup is important or costume is important, but it's still a battle, I'll tell you, Nonika. It is still a very tough battle, and we know we do not get our dues. Dhurandhar, however, surprisingly, I was surprised that even people who do not like I've got calls from people who do not notice costumes on screen. Their job is not to notice costumes. You usually think it will be taken by the film fraternity or people who work in the film industry who will probably notice something like that. But I was taken pleasantly by surprise on how many people who do not have anything to do with filmmaking have loved the design idea of Dhurandhar. And it comes from the fact that a lot has been customized.
Yeah.
You know?
So several questions are coming to my mind. Of course, one of this is you were talking about dressing up a cop. You designed for Delhi Crime.
Yes, season 1,
Yeah.
yes.
So and you've also done costumes for Poacher, right? So
Yes.
my question, of course, is whether OTT we've been saying allows greater creative freedom to everyone. Whether it's a director, writer. Would the
Mm.
same hold true for costume designers as well? What would be the biggest advantage of working for streaming platforms?
Uh the biggest advantage for working for streaming platforms is that, first of all, your story is not it's not briefed in like a 3 hour or a 1.5 hour or a 2 hour story, right? You have a journey, and that you get your time to tell that story, right? So in an 8 episodic series or a 10 episodic series, I'll speak particularly from costumes perspective. If I
Yeah.
have a growth of a character to show, I definitely have much more leeway and I have more scenes and time to actually play. So creatively, I definitely get more area and to develop and work on, and also it gives me more liberty because I can work on multiple facets of a character in a series. Okay, so which, by the way, and I think that's because that facet I can show is because that part of the story is being told about that character, right? And
Right.
that is because in an OTT you can do that. In a series you can do that. In a film, which is 2 to 3 hours, I mean, because Durand is, but
Three, three
one
and
and
a
a half
half,
to
we
two
can
hours.
say after
Yeah.
Durandar, yeah.
In a film with 1.5 to 2 hours, you have to choose what face of that particular character you need to enhance the most, and what is going to be a secondary face of that character, right? But in OTT you get to play with more. That is one uh, positive that I see in the OTTs. As far as the prep process and everything is concerned, it's not very different from that of a film. In fact, in the OTTs, it goes on for a longer period of time, and the prep is also ongoing because you start, you finish, and then you have to keep developing it. So the prep is ongoing while the whole series goes on. So I think that's the major difference between the two of them. Otherwise, I think more or less the process and method remain the same.
Yeah, but costume designers always lament one thing. You were talking of constraints, and the first thing that came to my mind was the budget constraint, because the first axe, I believe, falls on the costume designers when it comes to
Yes.
budget. Is that true? And would that be true for a for a tent pole film like Durandar?
It is true for every film. Tomorrow, Nolan sir will come over here. It'll be true for that film also. I'm telling you this right away because it is just, it is just period film or not, costume heavy film or not, budget constraints. There'll never be a producer who'll come and say, "I have the money, come make the film." Let me tell you this. I don't
Design,
think I will.
design whatever you want to, huh?
Not at all. That never will happen. You'll find a unicorn instead, but this is never going to happen, telling you that. So, budget constraints are this is always a fight. But for me, I mean, I can talk for myself. I think my bigger challenge remains time constraints, because the normal, like what people perceive for costumes is कि अभी बोलेंगे, they will buy some clothes, and how much time does it take to stitch it or make it? Ek. B, otherwise, don't make it, buy it, So things like that. So when customization is not involved, and what happens is everybody has a very strong take on costumes, Nanika, because everybody wears clothes. So
Yeah.
people are like, oh, it is so simple. What is this person going to be wearing? A jacket? No. Yeah, we can get jacket in Zara, So it is more time constraint because I definitely want to customize things a lot because, like I mentioned before, customizing gives me that edge on that character design. So
Mm-hmm.
I prefer customizing a lot. And also the play with textures, the fabric, and everything to build a design language of the film that we have. There's a palette we are following, the colors that we are following. Everything is not readily available in the market. So time
Mm-hmm.
constraint is a bigger challenge. It is believed that it can happen overnight. That is a bigger challenge than the budget because budget, I think, particularly after Durandar, I think people will understand how different
Okay.
it is when you actually have to customize something and when you actually have to pick it off the rack. It makes a huge difference. Huge difference. So I hope the market changes sometimes. I hope we find a unicorn someday.
But unicorn, you said you can see. Anyway, and for designing for a film like Tumbbad, which is a
Again, Tumbbad,
fantasy or horror fantasy, does that require greater imagination, greater ingenuity?
I Tumbbad came to me when I had nothing on my name other than a monsoon shootout and I think Dil To Bachcha Hai Ji. And both
Mm.
of these films had nothing in terms of period costume or anything like that, which would have spoken, why I should have done Tumbbad. So, but the makers of Tumbbad, by the way, were very heavily inclined on doing things the right way. Rahi himself, I remember seeing the storybook of Tumbbad way before Tumbbad was even greenlit. And
Okay.
Ship of Theseus was going on. And I remember I saw a storybook that was storyboarding that was bound and kept, and which was for Tumbbad. And Rahi Anil Barve, the director of the film, comes from a
Mhm.
graphic background, and his design on that paper was mind boggling. It was
Oh.
just mind boggling. So I believe the makers there, right, always knew what they were getting into, what they wanted to achieve, and that it needed the right kind of time and energy. Tumbad is the only film I would say
Mm.
where I think time was not snatched badly from me. You know,
Okay.
budgets were
Mm.
still a big concern. Also because we had an actor as a Soham, and
Mm.
people, it was an indie space cinema where people
Right.
don't know
Mm.
many of the
Mm.
makers, and
Yeah.
so so budget was definitely a concern. So and even then, in that constraint, when you still have time, you will be able to always save budget for the producers. Because then if you're not doing things overnight and paying your laborers three times the cost of making a garment, and also at the same time um, trying to find a cheaper version and yet finding
Mm.
quality, so that finding, the research itself takes time. All of these put together, it will sit together with the budget if you have the time. So I think with Tumbad, the thought process that behind it was so heavily researched,
Mm.
heavily researched. Both the directors, Rahi and Anand, at that point in time, I remember when I would go to them saying that I want to give this particular badge or this particular, outfit to this person, and they would be like, "Can you show the reference you're following?" And I would show
Mm.
them the reference. They would want it to be traced back to the year that it belonged to. They would want it to be known that what is the theory that was behind that particular image I had found from some godforsaken place on the internet or some book from the library. And it was not let go of till it was fully proofed.
Mhm.
It was like, okay, this can go through if they fit these boxes. I have the right ear. I know that this is belonging to the world we are talking about. And that is why this can be included over here. Because the film has a lot of political layer to it as well. It
Yeah.
mentions freedom. It is about Gandhi assassination, and a lot of things have been the Notch movement in India that happened, and the anti-Notch movement in India that happened. All of these things are layered over there, and that is why it is, oh my God, the research and
Mm.
the full proofing of it before it even went into making was so strong that nothing was out of place. Nothing at all. Everything was foolproofed.
But you worked with some of the finest directors, Richie Mehta, of course the Iranian director Ramin Behrani.
Namin Barani,
So
yes.
yeah, and so many more. So what has been the learning experiences? What has been what have you learned from any one of them which has stayed with you?
So a few things that I have learned from.
And
I've
of
learned
course
a
now
lot.
Aditya Dhar, for sure.
So I'll start with that, considering it's so fresh. It's the
Hmm.
patience that I learned from that man, the calm that guy man has. Oh,
Uh,
it is just, Have you ever seen a camel? Yeah, but
Yeah, of
no, I think
course.
that'll be a wrong comparison. But camel is more about like I don't give a fuck. But
No.
that is not Aditya Dar. Aditya Dar knows what's happening around. He just keeps his calm so poised. He's so composed that he's like a mountain. You see what I mean? It's like when we are, and that, okay, I'll give you an example of when we were shooting in Leh, and I was looking at those huge, magnificent being mountains. I was mesmerized by them, and also feeling so small and insignificant around it. I was like, we can just pass through. There'll be a huge ass vehicle crossing. There'll be a small little, like a little stone blast that'll happen on the side. That mountain is not going to move and it's not going to affect. That's Aditya Dhar. It's almost like he's watching, but he's
Okay.
just so unaffected, and he'll still stand there tall, doing what he's meant
Rock.
to do.
Rock solid, huh?
He's rock solid. Yes. So that I learned from him. Insanely patient man, and how he uses it as his strength. I have learned it from him. I've not been able to imbibe yet, but I think I have learned it from him, and I would love to. With Rishi, so who's now a very dear friend as well. I have grown with him as an artist with Rishi sir, and he's taught me what battles to choose, and sometimes there are some battles we should let go. We shouldn't fight all of them. We need to be very mindful of what battles to choose and what is going to yield results that will work well with the film that you're working on. And nothing is bigger than the film. And and these are my lessons, other than what I've learned from them technically as a director and as a costume designer. These are my other life lessons that I have learned. I have also learned that you need to give a lot of space to the other artists that you're collaborating with. And when I say artist, I'm talking about director, producers, creative producers, actors. Everybody needs their space to give, and because I think I mentioned this to you, my one of my grays is that I tend to be very like, oh, I think this is the route to take, and this is it. This is what you have to do. So I tend to be that way sometimes, and that's I've been working on it. So to give space to other actors and to ensure that we are collaborating will always yield 1,000 times better results than what you would do alone. So these are a few of my learnings that I've learned. I've had from my experiences from multiple directors, and sometimes, yeah, how to let go.
But as we were discussing, costume designing is almost a thankless, rather unglorified job in the world where there's so much limelight, razzmatazz, and whatnot. So, what put you on the path of costume designing? What was the trigger for becoming one?
It's been actually, I had never decided that this is the route I was ever going to take. All I knew was cinema was something that I really wanted to be a part of. Definitely not in पर्दे के आगे नहीं जाना था मुझे. I definitely never wanted to be an actor. But I knew that the filmmaking process was very intriguing, and I come from a family of uh, who are very like a family of film buffs. They have always loved. So I've grown up watching a lot of films, NFTC films and black and white films. I've grown up watching all of that. So there was always a liking for cinema, and very curious about how it is ever made. And I was like, somehow I want to be a part of it. And dabbling from corporate into Meditech, which was a television media house, I ended up coming to Bombay. I was still with Synergy Ad Labs, which was television. I got a job as an AD first, and then in Saurabh Shukla's film, and then I got another job as an AD, as an assistant director, which was Once Upon a Time in Mumbai. And there, because it was a period film, and like I
Yeah.
mentioned that I had watched, so I had a lot of, inputs, and I had very encouraging team over there who thought that my inputs were very valuable, and they used to make so I and my research has always been strong because I enjoy that a lot. So
Right.
Delhi Crime happens to be one of the most research heavy projects I've done. Poacher has been very research heavy, and I enjoy it thoroughly. So all of these things put together, the entire team from Once Upon a Time in Mumbai, including the designers who also I look up to as my mentors, Manushi and Rushi, they said, you have a flair for costumes, you should try them. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll give it a shot. I was genuinely a headless chicken, Nanika, and I think my deep desire to be associated with cinema, the universe was just paving the path because I was really wishing for it. and
Uh,
and it really paved it for me, and I have walked on it like a princess. The only thing I kept doing is I kept letting life taking its turn and absorbing everything it gave me. I did not question a single choice, whether it was my corporate, whether my jumping into television was, whether I became an AD after that, my
mm,
salary slashed down to one fourth of it. I did not question any of it. I just did
mm.
not. And I have
Well,
learned that in life, that if you do not question what life is giving you and yet try and maneuver it in the direction that you're in, you will find your way. You will.
wow,
And I
that
think I think I
that's
did it.
that's very well put. But we often say, clothes make it a man. To what extent do you think costumes make a character?
They make the whole of the character. I
Mm.
mean, uh, okay, not the whole. Costumes make it, yeah, because of course there's an actor who's playing it, so it's his job as well. And then there is hair and makeup, like I mentioned before.
Right.
Hair, makeup, and costume inseparable. My job
Mm.
is half done if hair makeup is not in place. So I can give the best of the costume, but if the hair makeup is not falling in place, it's never going to look right. So it is. I cannot. We are conjoined twins. You cannot separate us. And and then the actors, and who actually live the character and play it on screen, that
Mm.
is when the costume becomes so much more believable. And the biggest example of that was Dahar, for me, where I took a leap. And I was talking to the directors and I said, let's try and do something different on Vijay. Let's make these kind of shirts. Shirts like these are worn in Rajasthan, but let's try and do this. And my idea behind it was very simple. It was, he's playing a psychopath who, by
Mm.
the way, is a part of our very society, who's
Yes,
sleeping in the
yes.
bed in very,
Wonderful series, actually. Yes.
yeah, right next to me, but he's still different. He's so
Mm.
different, but we are still not seeing the details that is right in our face.
Yeah.
And that is why I wanted to have his shirts to be a little standing out than the others and yet blend in. So, and I think it would have fallen flat, Nanita, if it wasn't Vijay who believed that this theory is going to work. You know,
Mm.
Vijay wore those shirts, played that character so
Mm.
believably that the
Mm.
shirts worked well for the character. I did not design the shirts for the character. It was Vijay who played it more. So I think that is one of the biggest examples, and it really did well. The shirts again was something that got noticed by people who are not related to cinema and films. They were like, okay, a camp shirt on a man who's a psychopath. What are we even talking about? But it just sits. It just sits so beautifully. So I think they have a huge role to play. I think costume should take away like 30% of it, because it is
Mm.
60 that the actors are playing, and then hair and makeup being the rest of it. So that's what it is. You know, I did I just divide 60, 30, 10? I think I'll be wrong that way. It will be 60, 20, 20. I'll do that. Yeah,
That's
I
a
missed the math.
That's a fair ratio. But often in our industry also, there are many actors who proclaim that they wear their own clothes, they've worn their own clothes for films, and often stylists are confused with costume designers. Do you think there is a thin line between the two,
Yes,
or they
yes,
are
there
two
is.
different arenas completely?
I think what I would like to say here is that it depends on the job in particular. Sometimes stylists, not just so the job of a stylist, as the name suggests, is to style. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
which can mean that the person is picking clothes off the rack, or
Mm.
might customize something on the person, right? So now it
Yeah.
depends on the job. But so I can't speak on behalf of a stylist who would turn around and say, no, but I also make clothes on a person,
Mm.
right? And but her or his agenda is to style the person, is to make a
Mm.
statement, right? Is to it is very aesthetically driven, right? While a costume designer's job is very story and narrative driven. We may want to make look somebody look stylish, but that's not the demand of the story, you know. So I have to
Mm.
ensure that the person is looking the part. I have to ensure that he's looking the character. Now, if that needs for his shirt to be dirty and his shirt to be oversized, I will have to give him that.
Right.
So the methods are also very different, because there, in our case, there are not always things that we are picking up the rack, we are designing them, we are making them, and all of that goes behind it. There's a lot of processing that goes behind it. But for the stylists, again, like I mentioned, it is very aesthetically driven. There is no story or narrative that is being molded over there. In our case, our job is to ensure that it is fitting the story. So there is a difference between the two of them,
But
a huge
you are
difference.
both. You are both. You are.
I like to call myself a costume designer in particular, but
Uh,
styling is for actors. I end up doing. See, a costume designer and stylist is possible to
mm,
be together because there are multiple characters we'll have to design who we are
mm,
styling actually because the story asks for it. You know,
right.
there is a set of styling we do even as costume designers. When I
Yeah.
am making a person wear a certain kind of shirt, and I have to ensure that if I'm trying to get quirk out of it, then it'll be paired with a different kind of trousers or a different
Mm,
kind of skirt or whatever I'm pairing it with. And in any other situation, it'll be paired differently, right? So
mm,
the styling part is a job that I do, but it is layered. It
mm,
comes secondary. Yes, it is styled, it is put together. Sometimes it
mm,
doesn't have to look put together, and yet it is put together. So it is a part of our job, definitely. But
mm,
do I style for events and things like that? Yes, that I do sometimes, uh,
mm.
only out of sheer interest and friendly collaborations. That's that, but not
Okay. But
not like
who would you say is the most stylish person in the industry?
most stylish person in the industry. Diljit has been killing it.
Oh,
I
that's
think.
Punjabi very much.
Yes, he is so stylish. Oh my God. Anything he wears, I'm like, oh my God. And he makes very, very good style statements also. He went to Coachella in his
Yeah.
in his
Mm,
Punjabi lungi. I was like, wow.
mm,
So I like Diljit's style a lot. I also, I mean, we have a lot of these young musicians who are coming up, such as Rebel, who's actually sung for Durandar. Her personal style is
mm,
also great. I also like, who else do I like in the name of style? You know, there's this director called Faraz Ansari,
mm.
who's also very stylish. I love his style also. He's very statement. He's not, he's nowhere hiding anywhere. He's bold, he's out there, and he's very good. And it's yet so personal. I really like these
Mm.
people's style. Yeah, personal style.
So you were talking of goalposts. Is there any historical character you would like to style?
I don't know if this falls in a historical. Will I learn to style a historical character? It's a very tough question. I'm trying to think aloud because a lot has already been done, you know.
Mm. Yeah.
So I'm still thinking. Alexander, if it is ever made
Oh.
here in India,
Okay. And
I would totally do that.
which actor you think would fit the part?
You tell me.
No, you
This
tell
is the
me.
question you should answer.
No, you tell me.
I think
Because
if it's
you
Alexander, I don't think I can think beyond Ranveer right now.
beyond really.
For
Okay.
Alexander, for sure. No,
So
for
since
Alexander.
yeah, yeah, he can kill it for sure. But
Yeah.
since we've come back to from where we started, Dhurandhar, what is the character whose look is likely to go viral in Dhurandhar Part Two?
Ranveer.
Is huh?
Ranveer.
Ranveer only. So we're both Ranveer fans, it seems.
Yeah,
uh,
because no, because what we have seen so far is also there's a lot more left to
hmm,
see. You
yeah.
know, there is
Hmm,
this is not done enough. This is not over.
hmm,
There is,
hmm.
I don't want to reveal too much by
Yeah, yeah.
saying so. There is a lot, and there are different looks. So
Hmm.
yes, it is going to go viral. I'm very sure it will.
And where else is Smriti going to reveal herself? Where else?
Um, I let's see again. Like I said, I would suggest I will exactly follow the same mantra I've been followed. So I've followed so far. I'm going to let life give me the chance, and I will follow. I think
But
during the course of it.
okay, no projects, no projects
No,
that we can talk about. Hmm.
actually, no, because I can only tell you that there are two in the pipeline with Rishi Mehta. But we still can't talk about the project. The one that I already worked on is another Rishi Mehta film that happened during Dhurandhar only, and that is due to release in September. Again, I'm not supposed to talk about it, so I think this is what there is
Yeah.
for
So
you all to
Dhurandhar 2
watch.
is what we should be rooting for anyway. Yes,
Yes,
right. And
yes.
Smriti too. Yeah. Okay. Kudos to
Yeah,
your work,
thank you.
and
Thank you so much, Monica.
looking forward to more work. Thank you. Thank you so
I
much, Smriti, for your time
No,
and
thank
your
you,
thought.
Monica. I have to mention that I read your interview for Anand Patwardhan.
Okay.
That interview was done by you, right? And I really enjoyed reading it. It was very yeah, I really enjoyed reading it. All the
Thank
questions
you.
and everything, it made so much sense. It was really nice. So thank you so much for taking time
No,
out. You're a very
no,
senior
no.
person to speak with
No,
me.
no.
I am very, very honored. Honestly,
No, no, no,
very
no.
honored.
Well, pleasure and the honor is mine. Okay. All the best and looking
Thank you very
forward.
much.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes,
so
all the
much,
best to
right?
you too.
Bye, bye,
Bye.
bye.